If you are watching this video, you are probably wondering which European country might give you citizenship based on your family history. Well, after years helping hundreds of expats move to Europe, I have good news and bad news. There are 27 countries in the European Union, but only 3 of them have what I call open door policies for citizenship by descent. The other 24 countries, they each have unique barriers designed to keep most people out. Some require you to learn extremely difficult languages. Others demand you renounce your US or UK citizenship forever. Some countries require 2+ years of military service. And a few have laws so complex that even lawyers struggle to understand them. The good news: the top 3 countries in this ranking accept your application based on ancestry going back multiple generations, require no language tests, and process your application in months instead of years. But here is what most people don't know. Several EU countries are tightening their descent laws in 2025, making this window smaller every year. 27 countries, 4 critical factors, 1 ranking that changes everything. The 4 factors that make or break your application. Before we start ranking countries, you need to understand the 4 factors that determine whether you get citizenship or face rejection. Most people focus on the wrong factors and waste years pursuing impossible cases. They spend thousands on lawyers without understanding what actually matters. Here is how this ranking works. Each country gets scored on 4 factors using a 0 to 10 scale, where 0 means impossible and 10 means super easy. Generational reach carries 40% of the total score. This determines how far back you can trace your ancestry, whether you need a parent, grandparent, or great-grandparent who was a citizen. Language requirements account for 30%. Some countries require no language tests, while others demand proficiency in Category 4 languages that take tremendous effort to learn. Legal complexity gets 20%. This includes residency requirements, temporary laws with expiration dates, and bureaucratic obstacles that can kill your application. Wait time receives 10%, and it means how long you wait for a decision. Slovakia was excluded from this ranking because of insufficient data on their ancestry program, though their approach is generally restrictive and based on parentage only. These 4 make-or-break factors will determine whether you get your European passport in 6 months or never. Now let's see how each country stacks up, starting with the absolute hardest. 26. The Netherlands, where ancestry means almost nothing. The Netherlands scores 2.1 out of 10, making it the hardest EU country for citizenship by descent. The Netherlands has a massive generational wall for anyone whose connections go beyond their immediate parents. Here's the rule that kills most applications. Dutch citizenship only passes if a Dutch parent held citizenship at the time of your birth. That's it. No grandparents, no great-grandparents, no exceptions. If your Dutch connection is 1 generation removed, you are out of luck. There are special option procedures, but they are designed for specific groups like people born and raised in the Netherlands, not descendants born somewhere else. Your only alternative is naturalization, which requires 5 years of legal residency, passing a civic integration exam, and in many cases, renouncing your original citizenship. Most Americans, Canadians, and Brits find that citizenship trade-off unacceptable. Unless you have a Dutch parent, the Netherlands is effectively a closed door for ancestry claims. The next country in our ranking follows a similar pattern, but with an even more unusual twist. And by the way, I have a question for you. A viewer suggested to me to make a video about the easiest countries to obtain permanent residence, not citizenship. If you would like me to make such a video about permanent residence in Europe, send a comment in the comment section. 25. Finland, the 22-year rule that breaks families. Finland's score is 2.3 out of 10, and there is a specific rule that has likely severed your family connections forever. Even if one of your parents was born Finnish, you might not qualify due to a little-known deadline. Finland operates under the 22-year rule, which creates an automatic citizenship trap that most families never see coming, and here is how it works. Finnish citizens born abroad automatically lose their citizenship at age 22 unless they maintain sufficient connections to Finland. This means regular visits or establishing residence before that birthday. For example, your Finnish grandmother might have been born in Helsinki, but if she moved to America as a child and never returned, she lost her citizenship at 22. That breaks the chain for everyone who came after her. Finnish is also a Category 4 language, making naturalization extremely difficult for English speakers. The 4-5-year residency requirement, combined with mandatory Finnish language tests, creates an extremely hard barrier for most applicants. The next country has the exact same 22-year trap, but with slightly different requirements. 24. Sweden. Sweden is rated 2.5 out of 10, using the same citizenship killing rule as Finland. The irony is that while Sweden is one of the hardest countries to obtain citizenship by descent, it is the easiest in Europe to obtain citizenship by residence. Effectively, it's easier for someone without any ancestors in Sweden to become a citizen if he lives there for a few years than to a person from Swedish heritage to become Swedish. I covered the hardest and easiest citizenship by residence in another video. You should check it since it has some very curious cases. Due to that 22-year rule, thousands of Swedish Americans lost their connection to Sweden. Your grandfather might have been 100% Swedish, but if he moved to America as a child and forgot to apply to retain citizenship, he lost it at 22. These actions include applying to retain citizenship, of course, having lived in Sweden, or having visited the country regularly. Swedish naturalization after 5 years of residence is the only viable path for many applicants. The next country is also a Scandinavian nation, with such strict requirements about citizenship that many would consider it even harder than Sweden or Finland. But before we review it, I have some really good news. My Expat Wealth and Lifestyle Compass, valued at $180, is yours free for a limited time. Receive our 74-page analysis of affordable cities in Spain, Italy, and France, our guide for zero income tax countries that can save you up to $15,600, and a checklist that prevents costly mistakes. Don't let their chances go away. Scan this QR code now and join us for free. 23. Denmark, the 4 grandparent requirement. Denmark scores 2.7 out of 10 and has one of the most restrictive ancestry requirements in Europe. Having one Danish grandparent isn't enough. Denmark wants proof of complete Danish heritage. They require both parents or all 4 grandparents to be natural-born Danish citizens. This requirement acts as a similar wall that stops many mixed heritage families cold. This is completely different from countries that accept claims based on a single ancestor and effectively eliminates most mixed heritage families from consideration. Imagine this guy. His name is Erik Hansen. He now lives in Cleveland, but his parents came from Elkhorn, Iowa, a city with very heavy Danish heritage. Erik applies for Danish citizenship, and his paternal grandfather was born in Copenhagen, his paternal grandmother was from Aarhus, and his maternal grandfather was from Odense. But his maternal grandmother was a local from Iowa. How unfortunate for Erik. If it was not bad luck enough to live in Cleveland, Erik also cannot get Danish citizenship since he only has 3 Danish grandparents instead of 4. Standard naturalization requires passing Danish language and citizenship tests, plus paying 4,000 Danish crown fee. The next country in our list has a different problem, a legal concept that makes old claims disappear. 21. France. When citizenship expires because of disuse. France scores 2.8 out of 10, and there is a legal concept called désuétude that can kill your claim. Even if you can prove French ancestry, the law says you can lose citizenship through disuse after 50 years abroad. French law requires citizens to demonstrate they have acted as French citizens, holding French passports, and registering at French consulates. Failing to meet these requirements for a continuous 50-year period results in loss of citizenship even with proven French ancestry. Take the case of Pierre Dubois from Montreal, Canada. His grandfather was born in Lyon but moved to Canada in 1940. Pierre's grandfather never renewed his French passport or registered with the French consulates. After 50 years abroad, French law considers his citizenship lost through disuse. Pierre can't claim French citizenship because the ancestral chain was broken by désuétude. The alternative involves naturalization requiring 5 years of French residency plus demanding language and civic tests. This process can take half a decade. 22. Belgium. Belgium scores 3.1 out of 10, and there is a specific document your Belgian parent should have signed before you turned 5. If your Belgian parent didn't file a declaration of attribution by your 50th birthday, your claim is dead. Belgian law requires this declaration when a Belgian parent was also born outside Belgium, making it a double trap for diaspora families. The declaration acts as an administrative gateway. Without it, Belgian law doesn't recognize you as a Belgian, regardless of your parent's citizenship status. Your father could have been a Belgian citizen born in Brussels, moved to Canada as a child, and later had you in Toronto. If he didn't file that declaration before your 50th birthday, Belgian law treats you as if you have no Belgian connection at all. For those who missed this deadline, the alternative involves 5 to 10 years of legal residence in Belgium plus language and integration tests. 19. Cyprus, military service and Greek language. Cyprus is rated 3.4 out of 10 and male applicants face a challenging requirement. Getting Cypriot citizenship might mean serving in the military for up to 2 years. This mandatory military service applies to all males of Cypriot origin, even if you acquire citizenship later in life. The standard naturalization route demands 8 years of legal residency in Cyprus, plus proof of good character and B1 level of Greek language. You also need to understand Cyprus' social-political landscape. Greek is a Category 4 language, making it extremely difficult for English speakers to learn. The grammar structure and alphabet are completely different from English, requiring years of study to reach B1 proficiency. Processing times typically spend 2 to 3 years for most applications, adding significant time commitment to an already demanding process. The next country, also a Mediterranean island, has similar characteristics but without the additional military service requirement. And by the way, if you enjoy our database and well-researched videos that I put a lot of work to do, I would be glad if you could click on the like and subscribe button. It would be such a great help for us. 19. Malta. Malta's score is 3.8 out of 10, and they have essentially replaced heritage with wealth as the main pathway. Malta offers citizenship, but it's much easier if you can afford a massive financial investment. The country has no established program for individuals seeking citizenship through grandparents or distant ancestors, making it one of the least accessible options for heritage-based claims in Europe. The primary route to Maltese citizenship is the Citizenship by Naturalization by Direct Investment program, often called a Golden Passport scheme. This program requires a financial contribution starting at 600,000 euros plus property investment and donation requirements. The standard naturalization process requires 5 years of legal residency plus demonstrating knowledge of either Maltese or English. The investment program has become the dominant route to citizenship, effectively marginalizing traditional ancestry paths like those that other EU countries have. 18. Estonia, digging through Soviet archives. Estonia scores 4.3 out of 10. The Estonian citizenship program focuses on descendants of individuals who were citizens before June 16, 1940, when the Soviet Union occupied the country. This historical cutoff creates massive documentation challenges because many records were destroyed, lost, or scattered during 5 years of Soviet rule. You need to conduct extensive research to establish an unbroken chain of citizenship, often requiring family history records from the 30s. This means tracking down birth certificates, marriage records, and citizenship documents that predate World War II. Many families lack access to these records because they were never preserved or were destroyed during wartime. Estonia's complicated stance on dual citizenship adds another layer of uncertainty. While Estonian law states that citizens may not hold another citizenship, it also declares that citizenship acquired by birth is inalienable, creating a legal gray area. 17 is Spain, a temporary window with a permanent cost. Spain gets a 4.6 out of 10, and there is a law that expires in October 2025. Spain's Democratic Memory Law, Ley de Memoria Democrática, offers citizenship to descendants of exiles, but time is running out. This law, also called the Grandchildren's Law, allows citizenship to children and grandchildren of Spaniards who were exiled during the Spanish Civil War and posterior regime. The law came into effect in 2022, but expires in October 2025, creating a narrow window for applications. Meanwhile, in Spain, it's very easy to obtain citizenship if you are from a former colony or have Jewish Sephardic heritage through different programs with more favorable terms. 16. Italy, the 2025 law that changed everything. Italy scores 4.7 out of 10, but this ranking reflects a dramatic recent change that caught thousands off guard. Italy went from being one of the easiest countries to one of the most restrictive overnight. For years, Italy offered unlimited generational reach with no language or residency requirements, making it a favorite among ancestry seekers worldwide. Decree Law number 36 changed everything in March 2025. The law limited jus sanguinis to just 2 generations, meaning only applicants with Italian parents or grandparents can now claim citizenship. So Italy closed the door for anyone with great-grandparents or more distant Italian ancestors. For example, Carlos Martinez from Buenos Aires. His great-grandfather Giuseppe Rossini emigrated from Naples to Argentina in 1890. Under the old system, Carlos could trace his Italian ancestry back to Giuseppe and claim citizenship. Now he can't. The new law cuts off his claim because Giuseppe is 3 generations removed. The decree introduces the effective bond requirement, potentially requiring 2 years of legal residence in Italy to prove connection. Applications submitted after March 27, 2025 face these new restrictions. Court applications now require higher proof standards and no longer accept testimony as evidence. Pending applications from Brazil and Argentina were particularly affected by these changes. The Italian government cited national security concerns and overwhelming application volumes as justification. Italy's transformation from a citizenship haven to restrictive state shows how quickly these laws can change. 15. Germany. Complex history, complex laws. Germany gets a 5.2 out of 10 with citizenship laws that reflect the country's complicated 20th century history. German citizenship rules change depending on when your ancestor left and under what circumstances. The Germans offer multiple pathways including standard descent and special provisions for Nazi persecution victims. The standard path requires proving unbroken citizenship transmission, but this gets complicated by historical rules. Prior to 1975, German citizenship passed through fathers only if parents were married. Women who married foreigners automatically lost their German citizenship, breaking the chain for many families. The Generationenschnitt, I have no idea if I said it correctly, rule creates another trap. Children born abroad to German parents who were also born abroad after December 31, 1999, don't automatically become German unless their birth was registered within 1 year. Nazi persecution victims get a more accessible pathway under Article 116, Clause 2 of the Basic Law, with dual citizenship explicitly permitted. German citizenship requires navigating historical legal frameworks that even lawyers find challenging. And the next country is also German-speaking, but it's a bit easier since it operates a two-tier system that favors certain applicants. I know some really good contacts to help with Italian, German, Irish, and Spanish citizenship, and if you subscribe to my Patreon, you can have access to all of them for preferential rates. 14. Austria. 2 paths, 2 different experiences. Austria's score is 5.5 out of 10, operating a system that treats different applicants very differently. Your experience with Austrian citizenship depends entirely on why your ancestor left Austria. This creates 2 completely separate pathways with vastly different requirements and outcomes. The standard path is extremely restrictive, generally limiting eligibility to those born to an Austrian parent. But direct descendants of individuals persecuted by the Nazi regime who were forced to flee Austria get remarkable benefits. These include grandchildren and great-grandchildren with no generation limits, no language requirements, and no residency stipulations. Dual citizenship is permitted for those who can claim the persecuted path. The wait time for the persecution route is also much shorter, while standard route applications might take years. So Austria's two-tier system creates vastly different experiences for different applicants. 13. Slovenia. Slovenia scores 6 out of 10, offering 2 main pathways with different requirements. The 4th generation immigrant path extends to descendants up to 4 generations ago, but requires 1 continuous year of residence in Slovenia before applying. You must first obtain a residence permit based on employment, study, or family reunification, then demonstrate intention to integrate into Slovenian society during that year. The Slovenian origin path covers up to the 2nd generation without residency requirements, but introduces the challenge of proving active ties to Slovenia. The assessment of active ties is subjective and depends on the quality of documentation and the strength of your connections to Slovenia. Authorities evaluate your involvement in Slovenian cultural activities, knowledge of Slovenian history, and overall connection to the country. 12. Hungary. Hungary is rated 6.7 out of 10, with one of the most generous generational policies in Europe. Hungary will accept claims going back centuries, but there is one requirement that stops most people cold. Hungary offers 2 main pathways: verification of citizenship and simplified naturalization. The verification path has unlimited generational reach, meaning you can trace your Hungarian ancestry back as far as you can document it, but require more documents. The simplified naturalization route is more common for people with Hungarian ancestry, but it requires demonstrating proficiency in Hungarian language. The U.S. Foreign Service Institute classifies Hungarian as a Category 4+ language, placing it among the most difficult languages for English speakers to learn. Hungarian uses 18 grammatical cases compared to English simplified system. The vocabulary shares virtually no roots with English, making even basic words completely unfamiliar. This linguistic barrier requires years of dedicated study to achieve even basic proficiency. 11. Greece. Greece scores 6.9 out of 10, using a unique registration system rather than a traditional application process. Greek citizenship is about proving you are already Greek, not applying to become Greek. This distinction changes everything about how you approach the process. Instead of submitting an application and waiting for approval, you register your existing Greek heritage with Greek municipalities. The registration process requires documenting every life event, births, marriages, deaths, across generations to link you to your Greek ancestor. You must register each generation's vital records with the appropriate Greek municipality where your ancestor lived. Let's take the example of Maria Papadopoulos from Chicago. Her grandfather Demetrios was born in Thessaloniki in 1920 but moved to America in 1945. Demetrios' son, father of Maria, was born already in US, and Maria now lives in Chicago and wants Greek citizenship. She must gather Demetrios' birth, marriage, and death records with Thessaloniki's municipality, then register her father's birth and marriage, and finally register her own birth to complete the ancestral chain. The parent-grandparent limitation means you need Greek parents or grandparents to qualify. Greece's registration system requires meticulous documentation but has no language or residency requirements. 10. The Czech Republic. The Czech Republic gets a 7 out of 10, offering citizenship through a declaration rather than an application. The Czech system is straightforward and direct, but every document must be translated into Czech. This requirement for certified translations creates a significant hidden cost. The citizenship by declaration law allows descendants of Czechs or Slovaks, citizens from former Czechoslovakia, to claim citizenship. You need a parent or grandparent who was a citizen of the former Czechoslovakia. This declaration system bypasses standard naturalization requirements like residency periods or language tests. Processing time takes 6 to 12 months after application, which is relatively quick. 9. Portugal. Portugal scores 7.1 out of 10 with direct parent claims and grandparent claims requiring proof of connection. Portuguese citizenship through a grandparent requires demonstrating your connection to Portuguese culture. This creates two completely different pathways depending on how close your Portuguese ancestor is to you. The automatic parent pathway is straightforward. If you have a Portuguese parent, you qualify without additional requirements. The grandparent pathway introduces the effective connection requirement, which means proving you maintain ties to Portuguese culture and community. The A2-B1 Portuguese language test serves as the most common way to prove this connection. Portuguese is classified as a Category 1 language, making it relatively accessible for English speakers compared to languages in higher difficulty tiers. Take Robert Silva from Boston. His grandfather Manuel immigrated from Porto to Massachusetts in 1943. Robert carries his Portuguese surname but speaks no Portuguese. To claim citizenship through his grandfather, Robert must pass the A2 or B1 Portuguese language test to demonstrate his effective connection to Portuguese culture. Portuguese language proficiency is more accessible than many other EU requirements, but it still presents a barrier. 8. Romania and their generous reach. Romania is rated 7.1 out of 10, allowing claims up to great-grandparents, but with conflicting information about the requirements. Romania offers third-degree generational reach, meaning great-grandchildren can apply for citizenship based on their Romanian ancestors. The country allows dual citizenship, making it attractive for Americans and other nationalities who don't want to give up their original passport. The uncertainty centers around the Romanian language requirements. Some sources say an intermediate B1 level of Romanian is mandatory, while other sources suggest no language test is required for the ancestry-based pathway. Romanian is classified as a Category 1 language, making it relatively easy for English speakers to learn compared to Hungarian or Finnish. Processing times vary from several months to over 2 years, adding another layer of unpredictability. 7. Bulgaria. Bulgaria scores 7.6 out of 10 using a straightforward Bulgarian origin certification system. The system is clear and generous, requiring the navigation of a 2-step bureaucratic process. This creates more complexity than the next countries in this ranking, but the requirements themselves remain accessible. The first step involves obtaining a certificate of Bulgarian origin from the State Agency for Bulgarians Abroad. This certificate serves as foundational proof of your ancestral connection to Bulgaria. Once you receive the certificate, you proceed to the second step, the formal citizenship application itself. Bulgaria offers great-grandparent generational reach, meaning you can claim citizenship through parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents who were Bulgarian citizens. The country requires no language tests and no residency requirements for ancestry-based applications. Bulgaria permits dual citizenship, allowing you to keep your original passport while gaining EU citizenship benefits. The predictable timeline and absence of linguistic requirements make Bulgaria accessible for English speakers who want EU citizenship through ancestry. 6. Luxembourg. Luxembourg gets a 7.8 out of 10, offering an excellent pathway through their option procedure. Luxembourg's system is nearly perfect for those who qualify, but the eligibility window is specific. The country operates with direct route to citizenship for people people with the right family connections, which works for adults with Luxembourgish parents or grandparents. This pathway requires providing a complete copy of your ancestor's birth certificate and other necessary documents to the civil registry. The process demands careful attention to detail, since any errors or omissions could lead to delays or rejection. What puts Luxembourg in the top 6 is the exemption from language tests and integration course. You don't need to pass the Luxembourgish language test or complete the Living Together in the Grand Duchy integration course. 5. Poland, unlimited reach, complex history. Poland scores a 7.8 out of 10, offering unlimited generational reach, but with a certain restriction. The country will accept claims going back centuries, but your ancestor must have lived in Poland during or before 1920. This post-1920 residency requirement creates a documentation challenge that catches many applicants off guard. You need to prove your ancestor maintained residence in Poland after the country's modern citizenship laws took effect in 1920. Poland offers major advantages once you qualify. The country requires no language tests, no residency, and no demonstration of effective ties to Poland. Poland fully accepts dual citizenship, meaning you can keep your original passport while gaining Polish citizenship benefits. The process involves confirming citizenship you already legally hold, rather than applying for new citizenship. 4th, Croatia. Croatia scored a 7.8 out of 10, and recent law changes have made it significantly more attractive. Croatia eliminated its language test in 2025, and now they just require affiliation with the Croatian people. The removal of Croatian language and culture tests represents a major benefit for English-speaking applicants. This change streamlines the application process and reduces both time and costs. The remaining requirements include submitting a curriculum vitae and motivation letter in Croatian, plus providing proof of Croatian affiliation. Croatia allows immigrants and their descendants up to the 3rd degree, meaning great-grandchildren can apply for citizenship for descent. Now we enter the top tier, the top 3 countries that offer the most applicant-friendly laws with deep generational reach and no language or residency requirements for their primary ancestry paths. 3rd, Latvia. Some smaller countries are incredibly welcoming. Latvia scores 8.9 out of 10, offering one of the most generous policies in Europe for those with the right historical connections. Latvia's law is incredibly generous, but only applies to families who left during specific historical periods. Your ancestor must have been a Latvian citizen before 1940 and left the country between 1940 and 1990 due to Soviet or Nazi occupation. This historical requirement acknowledges the forced displacement that affected thousands of Latvian families during these turbulent decades. Latvia imposes no generational limits, meaning claims can extend beyond the great-grandparent. The country requires no language tests and have no residency requirements, and processing times run exceptionally fast at 1 to 6 months, making Latvia one of the quickest paths to EU citizenship. 2nd place, Lithuania. Lithuania gets a score of 8.8 out of 10, with nearly identical historical provisions to Latvia and similar generosity, but with a slightly different historical cutoff date that is even more flexible. The departure window extends from 1918 to 1990, covering families who left during both world wars, the interwar period, and the entire Soviet occupation. The program extends to children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of eligible individuals, offering generous multi-generational reach. To see how generous is the Lithuanian criteria, let's take the example of Michael Petrauskas from Ohio. His great-grandparents Antanas and Ona Petrauskas immigrated from Kaunas to New Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1919, just after World War I damaged their homeland. Michael just needs to gather the documentation showing they left Lithuania during the qualifying period, a much easier task than passing some complicated language test. But there is one country that beats them all for accessibility and simplicity, the easiest country to obtain citizenship by descent in Europe. Ireland gets a score of 9 out of 10, securing the top position for accessibility and simplicity. Ireland's system is exceptionally straightforward. While other countries create complex historical requirements, language barriers, and bureaucratic traps, Ireland focuses on one simple fact. Was your grandparent born on the island of Ireland? If the answer is yes, you are eligible. The simple grandparent rule eliminates confusion. No historical cutoff dates, no proof of cultural connection, no demonstration of effective ties to Ireland, no language tests, no residency requirements, and no cultural integration assessments. You just need documentation proving your grandparent's birth in Ireland, plus the vital records linking you to that grandparent. The process takes around 9 months, making Ireland remarkably efficient compared to multi-year awaits elsewhere. This combination of simple requirements, generous generational reach, and reasonable processing times makes Ireland the most accessible option for most applicants seeking EU citizenship through ancestry. Ireland, together with another very prosperous and wealthy European country, is also remarkably easy to get citizenship by residence. Yes, without any ancestors, you might become a citizen of these countries just by living there for a few years. Want to discover which countries I'm talking about? So check this video here at your left, where I ranked the hardest and easiest EU countries to obtain citizenship by time of residence. Enjoy my Patreon for all the sources, charts, and maps from our videos, plus a chat so I can answer your questions. Tier 2 includes my top 3 ebooks on living and retiring abroad. Scan the QR code today.